Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I am here mostly by myself today. Anyway, I think I'm going to be the only. Well, Dan might join me today. Catherine's off doing things on her own, and I'm not sure about Sandy. But for those of you who are watching, if you'd like to join us anytime, you can jump on with us. Just jump over to our Facebook group, mindsetmasterycollective.com. You can just add to the group, add to the conversation, send me a message, let me know you'd like to participate with us, and you can jump on here too. But let me just tell you what we're talking about today. I don't even think I mentioned that. We're talking about The Soul of Money by Lynne Twist. We're on chapter 8. Every week we get together. Well, I say every week, but the truth is we get together a lot of weeks. Not every single week because, we all have lives and we have things going on with ourselves. And, we missed the last couple of weeks because one week I was on vacation and visiting my daughter down in South Carolina. And then last week I was sick. So we didn't get on here. But today we're on and we're going to be talking about chapter 8. Hopefully Dan will be joining us here pretty quick, but I'm not really sure who's going to jump on with us today. So if you're watching, leave me a comment below the video. I've got the chat open here, and then you can share your opinion with what we're talking about. And let me know, have you read this book? I'm curious to know who else is out there and reading this book and what you think of it. So chapter 8 is called Change the Dream. And at the beginning of the chapter, there's a little quote from John Perkins from, I guess, his book or something that he talked about called The World as You Dream It. He says, "We have dreamed it, therefore it is. I have become convinced that everything we think and feel is merely perception, that our lives, individually as well as communally, are molded around such perception, and that if we want to change, we must alter our perception. When we give our energy to a different dream, the world is transformed. To create a new world, we must first create a new dream." In the beginning of this chapter, Lynne talks about how she first got involved with Achuar people in Ecuador. And I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing the name of the people correctly. So hopefully, if anybody from that part of the world is listening in, they can correct me. But either way, she's talking about how she first got involved with them and how when she was involved with the Hunger Project, and then she got drawn away to these people because of an event that she went to. She went to go travel in Guatemala with John Perkins, and she went to this shamanic. Let's see. She says she was introduced to the people that helped her found the Pachamama Alliance, which is the Pachamama means Mother Earth or Mother Universe. And so they're involved with connecting with the indigenous species or indigenous people, in the rainforest, and trying to connect them with the outer world. And so anyway, she goes to this, let's see, she calls it at a place where there is a shaman, and they were preparing this like dream ceremony. And so she goes through and has this kind of experience in this dream ceremony where she has this vision of these faces rising up from the forest floor, and they have these markings and feathers in their hair, and she thinks it's just a really interesting dream that she has in this kind of ceremony. Well, she goes back to reality or back to her life, and she keeps having these visions of these people floating up from the forest floor. And so they really start to get to her in her life and interfere with all the things that she's trying to do. And so she's trying to sort out what it is. So she talks to this John guy and she's like, "Hey, what's going on with this? What do you think about it?" And he was like, "Well, according to these people, the shamans, they really truly believe that dreams are messengers, or they're ways of communicating with us that we would otherwise not know. And so maybe there's something in this communication that is trying to guide you in some way." And I thought that that was really interesting because of the way, and the indigenous people, we know like the Indians, the American Indians, they think a lot about dreams and uh, dream guides and that sort of thing. And then these people in the rainforest, the same kind of thing. And I kind of wonder if we compare that maybe to our own culture as like meditations and visions and that sort of thing. And so, when for people who believe in meditating, I think a lot of people realize that we can have like these visions inside of ourselves that maybe we're connecting with our deeper spiritual self, maybe we're connecting with God, maybe we're connecting with the universe, who really knows? But sometimes those things can help guide us into doing or making changes in our lives. And so I'm wondering, if that's kind of very similar, these dreams that they were doing versus, the types of dreams that we might think of. Hang on just a second here. I've got people messaging me on Facebook, and I'm wondering if they're trying to get on here. Let me make sure Dan's trying to get on, or Catherine for that matter. Let's see. Uh-oh, Dan says he can't join. Let me see. Oh, he doesn't have his log on. Interesting. Wish I could pause this and put you on hold for a second and then come back to it, but it wouldn't work that way since we're live. Sure how to help him, so we'll send him that message. Hang on just a second. I'm sorry. I've got to run and get a Kleenex. Okay, it's been quite a while since I have actually done one of these hangouts by myself. It's kind of weird doing it by myself again after all of this time, because if I need to take a break for some reason, then you have to sit there and have nobody saying anything. So that's a little bit frustrating. But okay, so back to the dreams. So let's see here. All right, so she was saying we're talking about these indigenous cultures, and one of the things I wanted to just kind of read right here. It says, in most indigenous cultures, dreams are a powerful communication medium. People discuss their dreams and draw meaning from them, consult their dreams before making important decisions, and consider the dreams as a means of communicating their desires and intentions and making them known and real to others. I like that they talk about that in there, because I feel like, you know, in I think it's important to really consider the things that come up inside of us rather than just all of the outside stuff, I mean, we're thinking about our inner guidance, whether we look at God as our guide or whether we look at our higher spiritual self or nature, whatever it is that is that we can draw meaning from those things that we see inside of ourselves when we calm our mind, right? Okay, so then let's see here. Let me get ahead. I'm just going to read some of the things that I underlined in here just to kind of keep this focused on the topic so I don't go too far off. All right, so she was saying, okay, so after she had this kind of this vision in her dream, and it started interfering with her life, then she was saying, over the next few years, this relationship that, okay, gotcha. Right, sorry. I got off track there a little bit. So after she realized that this vision was something that was trying to guide her, she actually was able to connect with these Achuar people that were in the rainforest. And this is kind of her first initial contact with them after this dream. And earlier in this book we talked about some of the things that she's learned from them, so you can go back and read a little bit about that, but this is when she's first having this initial thing. And the whole point is that these people had like this dream themselves that they realized that they couldn't stay isolated from the rest of modern culture, and that were they kind of had this vision that modern culture was going to come in there and kind of destroy them. And so they're trying to initiate contact with the outside world in such a way that is beneficial to everyone. And so she is kind of ends up being the, I don't know, the between modern culture and these people. And so anyway, that's where we're kind of going with here. And she says, although I was deeply immersed in my work to end world hunger, because that was the hunger project that she was working with, and had expected to stay in that work for the rest of my life, this was clearly an intervention and an interruption in that plan that demanded to be respected. It was not part of my plan, but it was clearly part of my destiny. And I think, it's interesting to kind of look at it that way, because sometimes stuff does come up in our lives and we don't have, or we feel like maybe we don't have any control over it. It's just happening, and we just kind of got to go with the flow, because maybe there's a reason for that. Um, so anyway, this was the beginning of the Pachamama Alliance, and she refers to that as Mother Earth or Mother Universe. And but she says the Achuar are an ancient dream culture. Dreams are central to the way they perceive the world and where they get their wisdom and information. So they take their dreams very seriously. They consider them a critical part of their way of being. And she says, I have never paid much attention to my dreams and didn't have much memory of them, but in this particular experience, that first vivid dream had tremendous power, and it was clear to me over and over as events unfolded that it was an important part of my life and I needed to pay attention to it. So let's see. Allowing this unusual dream culture to permeate our way of being has created an alloy of consciousness and working partnerships all through this part of the Amazon. Okay, so she's talking about, because of this partnership, they're able to, work with these indigenous people in a way that is more productive for the people, for the preservation of the rainforest, and for the modern world as well. She says, as partners, we are finding breakthroughs and seeing the way through to sustainability. The future we dream and which is emerging as reality is one in which these pristine ecosystems are protected and the indigenous people who are the natural custodians of these forests are respected for their intelligence and vision. So then she talks about that, but then she goes on, she says, our culture teaches no special respect for dreams, yet I am reminded of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, and the fact that even in the US, the power of a dream shared can change the most entrenched reality. A dream is a catalyst for change, first in the dreamer and again in the dream shared. John Perkins heads his own organization called the Dream Change Coalition, and in his many years of interactions with the indigenous Amazonian peoples, they have told him over and over again that the job is to change the dream of the modern world. The indigenous shamans and elders with whom John has studied for years teach that the world is as you dream it. The dream we have had in the modern world, they say, is a dream of more. More factories, more companies, more freeways, more houses, more money, more buildings, more cars, more everything. These wise elders point out that the dream is now becoming a nightmare, rippling across our great earth and wreaking havoc. That's something to think about there, isn't it? If we talk about the American dream, and how I think it's interesting how they're kind of comparing a dream. When we think of dreams as, you go to sleep and you have a weird random dream. I don't know about you guys, but I have really weird dreams. And, they just don't seem to really mean anything. But then if we look at it in a different perspective, it's more like a vision of what we think life should be, or what our future should be, or something along that lines. If we talk about the American dream, or we talk about Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream of change, what if we changed our dream? Right now I feel like our dream as a culture, or not really necessarily dream, but just our like attitude is this whole more and more and more consumerism. Consumerism is a huge thing. And if we were to change that to something different, how that would make our world change. It says in our interactions with the Achuar people of Ecuador and the other indigenous peoples with whom we know now have begun to work, the message is the same. Change the dream. They say that we really can't change our everyday actions because at their root will always be the dream we have for our future, and we will always act consistent with that dream. However, they say, the dream itself can be changed in the space of one generation, and the time is now to do the work that will change the dream. Excuse me, my throat is getting scratchy. I apologize. Okay, still not sure. Can't get Dan on. He's forgotten his login. Maybe you can do password reset. Okay, we'll see what he does. Okay. All right, let's talk about that. Okay, so I have looked deeply into what our dream is and where it comes from. I've seen that we must redream, learn to question the culture dream of more, and begin to create a dream and a future that is consistent with our reverence toward, respect for, and affirmation of life. Changing the dream may really mean to see the world completely differently, as Indigenous people do. They see a world that is totally sufficient, animated with spirit, intelligent, mystical, responsive, and creative, constantly generating and regenerating itself in harmony with the great diversity of resources that support and collaborate with one another through the mystery of life. They see human beings as part of that great mystery, each human being having an infinite capacity to create, collaborate, and contribute. I thought there was another part in here. There was another quote that I really liked. Where was it? Maybe we'll get to it. I'll find it again at some point. I'm just gonna keep reading. let me jump over here and see if anybody has made a comment for us. Nope, still just me. Okay. All right. Historically, the world as we have envisioned it has seemed to be a world where fixed finite resources are declining so fast that we must compete in any way and at any cost to be among the people who can survive and be on top. From that view or understanding, from that dream, we run the world in a way that fewer and fewer people have a real chance to win. We strive to eliminate the competition. We erode our true wealth, the creative power and ingenuity of all people, the wealth that is inherent in all life. You know, I feel like, our whole life and existence could be much more, fulfilling if we were focused more on what we're capable of versus, what we have to keep accumulating. And I don't know. I'm just going to keep reading this until something pops into my head important to say. In inviting us to change our dream, they may be asking us to wake up to the dream that currently drives our actions, a dream that is actually a dangerous trance, a dream that is on autopilot, the dream of acquiring and accumulating even more in the face of limited resources, a dream that all growth is good regardless of the human and environmental costs. They may be asking us to look at what our trance or dream is doing to us in the world we live in. Plants, the animals, the sky, the water, each other. I feel like there's a lot of shows on TV that talk about the different ways that we can be more sustainable rather than just continuing to be consumers. Like, we have these like little tiny house shows, and we have these house like the make the houses more energy efficient, and we have all these different kinds of engineering and whatnot, and people who are making growing food in greenhouses instead of just continuing to do it in the ground. And we're doing a lot of things that are more sustainable, and I feel like those things are coming from like individuals' dreams for what they want to see in the future. And if we could all change kind of our idea of, what do we want our futures to be? Is it just about getting more stuff, or is it about creating just a better way of living? I don't know. What do you think? They may be inviting us, imploring us to re-see what we need is already and always there. As Gandhi said, there is enough for our need, but not for our greed. Now, I'm not reading every word from this chapter. I'm just reading stuff that I thought was important. Well, I mean, it's all important, but the stuff that I kind of underlined. So then she goes on to say, while they have shared their prophecy with us and urged us to change our dream, it is also clear that the prophecy they honor with this new collaboration has effectively changed their dream as well. And that was interesting because you kind of talked about the fact that, their people as a culture at one point in time was all about, they were trying to stay just themselves. And so they were warriors. And so they would fight off these other tribes. And so they had like a tough time when they were uh, in their generations before, because they had a good reputation as being warriors, and so they weren't collaborators like they are now. And so they realized that they needed to change their dream of who they were in order to connect with the outside world and be a part of the future. And because if they just were fighters, and then when modern culture comes in there and they're just fighting, they're going to end up not being there anymore. And and that would be just a sad thing. But instead, now they're more of like caretakers of the rainforest, and they uh, work with the modern culture in order to just make everything better for everyone. Oh, here's that other quote that I was thinking of. Okay, so, and this is from Buckminster Fuller. He says, everyone has the perfect gift to give the world, and if each of us is freed up to give the gift that is uniquely ours to give, the world will be in total harmony. As the indigenous people say in their prophecy of global collaboration for survival, we need to remember each other, reunite, be in relationship, share our gifts, and the world will come naturally into balance. None of us wants our children or children's children to live in a you or me world where they have to fight for survival. We want those children to be free, self-expressed, living in harmony and collaboration with reverence for life and the resources we all share. All of us want a you and me world. When we have the courage to let go of the dream we have now, the dream and drive and trance to accumulate more, then we have the space to envision and create a new dream, a dream that sees us engaged in respecting, preserving, honoring what we have. In that space of nourishment, in that vision of a new relationship with life, natural harmony and creativity abound. What do you think? Do you think that changing our dream or vision of the future is the key to making everything better? Or do you think that we should just keep on going down the road that we're going and just keep consuming, consuming, consuming? I don't know. My part-time job is in retail. And, in a lot of ways I like that work. It's something to do, and it makes me a little income so I can buy stuff for my grandchildren. And but it just amazes me how much stuff people buy every day. I mean, it's insane how many things, how much. It just boggles my mind, truly. And, people, it's like on the weekends, there's hundreds of people that come into our store and buy and buy and buy and buy. And I wonder, I'm like, what are they doing with all this stuff? They just keep coming back and buying more. It's like, I don't know. Um, like, what purpose does all of it really serve? I mean, is it just to have stuff just because we don't have anything better to do? I, I think we really need to examine that. What are we doing with ourselves? Why? Hmm, I don't know. Something to think about. Guys, it's been fun. It's been a little unusual being here by myself and not having anybody else to kind of bump ideas off of. So, if you'd like to join me or the rest of us, normally there's at least a couple of us on here other than myself, and share your thoughts on what we're studying, which, right now it's The Soul of Money by Lynne Twist. Next week we'll be talking about chapter 9. Let's see what it says about chapter 9. Taking a stand. Give a people a center and they stand fast. So that's what we'll be talking about. With that, I'm going to jump off because I don't have anything else to say at this point. And, I don't want to just ramble on saying nothing of any value. So with that, have a great, awesome, amazing week. And we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.